Hello, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining. I think very early morning for those friends joining from Australia. So thank you for joining us this afternoon and morning. We have two incredible leaders joining us, and pretty broad experience across two different spectrums. And Nick Chevalvier, who's going to introduce, and Don Victor as well from 5DX. So great to have you. We're looking forward to this discussion. This is we just came from a great long discussion about the long road in cyber career and what we can do to prepare for that. And I believe this will give us a way to prepare, right, with all the talent and the state of cyber talent today versus where we want to be tomorrow. Nick, with that, turn it over to you for a quick introduction, please.
Sure. Thanks, Val. Nice to be here. My name is Nick Chevalvier, and started off my career 25 plus years ago in technology. Started to focus on cybersecurity in the late 90s. Went to work for a boutique security consulting firm doing work for government agencies. Spent a number of years at Deloitte. And then 15 years ago came to Silicon Valley Bank, which was then a regional $10 billion bank. Spent 12 years as chief privacy officer, spent a couple of years as CIO to kickstart the digital transformation, and then the last couple of years as chief information security officer. And in fact, I'm wrapping up a 15-year career at Silicon Valley Bank. I decided that I was going to publish a book, Cyber War and Peace, Building Digital Trust with History as Our Guide, donate all the proceeds to charity. All the proceeds go to next-gen cyber talent, helping underprivileged, underserved communities get educated in cybersecurity. And now I am in my last month with the bank and exploring what I want to do next. So I'm glad to be here, Val.
Wow, what a way to kind of. I'm sure this is the end, kind of end of a chapter and a great beginning for another. So looking forward to do what's next as well.
Yeah, thanks, Val.
Excellent. How about you, John?
Well, thanks, thanks, Val. Thanks, Nick. Thanks everybody for joining. I'm a serial entrepreneur, Don Victor. I'm a founder and executive chair of ThriveDX. I've done many different things, many different businesses my whole career, and lived all over the world. But the most interesting and extraordinary is it started 15 years ago when we founded ThriveDX in Israel, and it grew to become the #1 Israeli high-tech and cyber training center, really fostering cyber training for people from different backgrounds, training them and placing them to very lucrative jobs. Today, we train higher ed, we train enterprise, we train government across the US, really bringing very comprehensive cyber training to people from different socioeconomic backgrounds, training them and placing them in these very lucrative, very sustainable, and very in-demand jobs. Really, ThriveDX is really at the center of technology, cyber, and training, protecting government, enterprise, and people from what we think is really the biggest threat in the economy today, and that's a shortage of cyber talent. And I'm very glad that we're having this, and I think these talks and conversations need to be really put on as much as possible to bring this major threat out in the open.
Well, absolutely. Glad to have you both here, and with your experience, I think kind of almost chronologically hand in hand with Nick's experience as on the other side, protecting and defending, institutions, especially the one that he's currently in, and also serving as mentors and coach to so many in the industry. I'm sure there is a great synergy between the two sides that we can bring alive, right? So, I would like to open with this, that, in terms of the skills that we need for cyber, it's not just, one, right? I mean, cyber is such a broad and vast space, and the amount of exposure that we have and the responsibility that we carry across in our shoulders across the different stakeholders that we work with is quite broad. Maybe we start with the idea that what are the different avenues of getting into a cyber career? And then Nick, maybe we can use your journey as a kind of sketch of how do we go there, and what are the different skills that we pick up on the way, or where do we go from there, right?
Yeah, absolutely can start. I was sort of the kid in the neighborhood who fixed computers and was on bulletin board services and would set up sort of home networks and small office networks. And so I had a interest and a passion for technology. And at first, I kind of saw it as a way to democratize data, sort of pre-Mosaic browsers, as how do you share information around the world. But then, as I started off my career in technology, I realized that the very technology that may empower us may also imperil us. And so, how do you think about protecting to enable organizations? And so, I very methodically took positions in technology and then moving into cybersecurity, where I eventually became a pen tester breaking into networks and learning then how to defend them. So adapting and adopting the attacker's mindset to expand using various sources of information to break into networks. And then the flip side of that, how do you defend against that? How do you think like an attacker and applying that to various disciplines? I mentioned I was at Deloitte for a number of years and I worked for privacy attorneys. And so I developed an appreciation of the nuances about all data, how we think about it as oil, but really you should think about it as uranium. It can empower, but it also has toxic elements to it. And so bringing that philosophical approach to developing a holistic cybersecurity program. So I started off in technology, but began to expand. And the way, an analogy that I used for people as a leader and as a mentor is, you want to start off as an I-shaped professional. You're deep in one area, but then out of curiosity, and variety is the spice of life, begin to understand other domains and you become a T-shaped professional. So you specialize in one, maybe it's in technology, but then you broaden out and have an understanding of security and privacy, and then eventually aspire to be a Z-shaped professional, someone who understands the technology, someone who understands the business, but then can connect those two dots on the risks associated with the business enablement and the technology associated with it, and the risks inherent, because every company has a slightly different risk profile. Every network is like a snowflake. They're similar, but they're different. And how do you know thyself and know thy organization to have a more bespoke and effective sort of protectionary risk model? And so that's the journey that I took, Val. But I think it's important to note there are lots of different starting points for a journey in cybersecurity, and that it takes a multi-dimensional perspective and a multi-dimensional approach to build cohesive, effective, resilient cybersecurity programs. So I'll pause there and hand it back to you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Nick. I think that's a kind of a combined intense set of kind of characteristics that you would say, and I like the visualization of the I shape into T shape into C shape, because those provide you kind of a context of how you can your career will be shaped over a period of time. And then switching to Dan, I know you have a very successful cybersecurity training platform, and also by nature of the business itself, you get to see different types of demands in the market. Where do you start from, or what was your genesis of getting into this, and how did you shape your offerings to address the different stages of need that a CISO such as Nick would have?
That's a good question. Really, my partner came up with a need in the market really over 30 years ago. When he finished university, he saw the huge skills gap in Israel. Startup nation, Israel was starting, and there was such a lack of software engineers, cyber analysts. There was a huge lack, and he was a programmer since age of 15, very similar to Nick's story. And he began training software engineers and began training cyber analysts and placing them into the market in Israel. And as you know, Israel is one of the most competitive markets in the world in IT and cyber, where really cybersecurity is a matter of life and death. In Israel, it's not just to protect the company. It's really we have to be the best, because it's just that. Necessity is the mother of all creativity, and about 40% of the cyber technologies come out of Israel. And so we started there, and we began really interviewing employers and seeing what they need, what kind of competences they need, and how do we bring people that are career changers, people from outside the industry into the industry, and what skills do we need to train them to be able to succeed and to thrive in that industry, in cybersecurity. So what we found out that we would need to give a wide understanding of cybersecurity. Really start from building an infrastructure, learning cybersecurity tools, attacking it a little bit, just like Nick said, understanding the mindset of the hacker, doing forensics, seeing what happens, disaster recovery, incident response, really the whole wide understanding of the cyber market. When you take people with no skills, train them, and then get them ready to be more or less cybersecurity junior level analysts. And then we would add that last mile. That last mile means what do that specific employer wants, right? Because Deloitte needs something different than Google, Cloud needs something different than MSSP. So we have that last mile training where we can help train them in exactly and get them ready for that specific job. So again, we start with a wide understanding, and that's a very comprehensive boot camp. So it can be 400 or 500 hours to 900 hours. And then we really market them and make them specialized in that specific job that they want to go for, that the employer is really looking for.
Yeah. So Dan, you articulated a way of industry offering to train candidates to be ready for someone like a CISO program, and someone like Nick taking on them. Let me ask you this. When it comes to getting candidates in a program, whether they're entry level or coming at any level, they have to do the work, they have to learn on the job, but also keep their skills sharp. How do you see those two competing areas exist together, and what's your guidance to those practitioners who are learning as fast as they can, but they have to do their job?
Yeah, one of the themes I think for anyone's career is you want to find something that you enjoy doing first and foremost, so that way it doesn't feel like work. It's just a vocation and a passion. Yeah. And then keep learning and improving, right? No matter where you at, no matter where you're at in your career, there's something to learn, there's something to grow in, and so, for example, if you're early in your career, you want to learn your domain, and you want to learn tangential domains as well. So, for example, I'll give you real life examples. Is I've taken people who come from a compliance background and who are not sort of native engineers or specializing in cybersecurity, but policy and governance is an aspect of cybersecurity, and people with a compliance and an audit background have a diligent approach to that. And so I've hired people with a compliance and audit background and helped us build sound policy standards and procedures. And by virtue of doing that, through that osmosis, they learn more about broader aspects of cybersecurity. And if they have an interest, then they can learn more. And so I've had examples where I talked about policy and compliance and standards and documentation, where they start there and they grow into other areas. A strong project manager who's very disciplined and rigorous can be a good vulnerability management program leader for you if they know the right different expertise to draw on, and they diligently drill with discipline and execution. So those are real life examples of people with non-traditional cyber backgrounds who can make a contribution to a well-governed cybersecurity program. And for those of us who have been doing it for a while and might have expertise in a particular area, is having a thirst for knowledge, right? Keep learning and improving, expanding your skill set. And whether you specialize in forensics today, but you want to learn more about, say, attack surface management or vulnerability management, there's a plethora of opportunities there. And so I've used various tools. I came up and I used SANS over the years, brought in online trainers, do perpetual red teaming. So I think we've all heard of Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett's older advisor is Charlie Munger. Charlie Munger is a true polymath. He's an expert in many different fields. And he has a lifelong saying, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcome. And so running red team exercises where you incentivize teams to find things and raise their hand. Just the last point is, as CIO, I had to focus on resilience and disaster recovery. And what I found is that if I incentivized people correctly, I could find the gotchas early. And so I took this concept that we all know about postmortems, but what about premortems? What if we get everyone in the room before a big disaster recovery exercise, spell out all of the requirements and the gotchas, and then I give out $100 bottle of wine to the person who has the biggest surprise that no one knew about. And this way you incentivize people to want to raise their hand, to want to talk about issues early. It helps cultivate a culture and a chemistry where you're talking about reality. And that actually led to better business outcomes in disaster recovery, as an example. So lots of different ways to approach it, whether you're just starting your career, whether you're further along, but having that fire in your belly to keep learning and improving, I think that's a key ingredient.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, when it comes to learning and improving, that is the core essence of cybersecurity. You cannot just sit back and relax. There is not a moment for a cyber practitioner to do that, and should not be, not saying that the burnout is not real, but I think that's where we probably advance with capacity and automation, and probably done with your platform. Training can take some of the proactive measures to address that, right? Let me take this question over to Don for you. Cybersecurity training is a very tricky business. You definitely have an edge in that, being kind of a market leader in that. What I want to kind of dig into a little bit is, when things are moving as fast as they are today in this journey, what do you suggest the business to support the CISOs like Nick to invest in cybersecurity areas of training, right? Sometimes, the challenge is that you have only certain areas that people understand, you have the budget for it, and you get trained. But the thing is, things are moving very fast. So which areas do you suggest people focus on at a larger scale from a cyber threat angle?
Well, I would say training, and some more training. Cybersecurity defense is two things, right? The technologies that you have to defend, but the training, I think companies need to put just as much emphasis on the amount of technology they buy, because, as Nick would tell you much better than me, to come into an organization, you go to the secretary's computer, to that guy's computer, to from anybody's computer, and you have to train everybody. And cyber, like you said, is all the time changing. For example, we have actually a cyber service arm. It's a small, very small profit center, but we especially have it in order for our trainers, for our faculty, for the people that write the curriculum, to go out and do cyber services and see what's really happening today in the environment, and to bring the latest technologies, the latest holes, the latest gaps into the curriculum to keep updating it. And just like people should never stop learning, especially in cybersecurity, they should never stop training. It's going to be this today, that tomorrow, the cloud the next day, every single step. So I just think training, and everything and everyone in the organization. And I think most times, many companies and enterprises minimize the importance of training until they get hacked, until somebody asks them for ransomware, until it happens to them, because they don't believe it's going to happen until it happens.
Nick, how do you address that?
I love it, Dan.
versus structured learning versus learning through experience, like when something happens?
Yeah, well, let me address all 3 points. And first off, I completely 100% agree with Dan. And let me give a couple of stories. And one is, if you've ever traveled to London, one of the great cities of the world, in the geographic center, there is Trafalgar Square. And there are 4 lions, and there's a pillar. And at the top of that pillar, there is a statue of Lord Admiral Nelson, right? And Lord Admiral Nelson was the captain of the British fleet that defeated the Napoleonic fleet at the Battle of Trafalgar, and it saved England from being invaded by Napoleon during the Napoleonic Wars. It was a real threat at the time. He, in fact, died in that battle, and there's now this great monument in commemoration to him. But what was the secret of winning that battle? His sailors could fire off 3 cannonball for every 1 cannonball that the French could. And why is that? Because they trained every day. They developed these capabilities and these muscles, or even though they were outnumbered, they were able to execute so quickly that they fired off 3 cannonball for every 1 that the French did. And that was through training, to Dan's point, and that preparation and those capabilities that they developed. It's something I took to heart early in my career. When I was managing technology, I would have admins bring up Exchange servers all the time in order to train how do you recover a downed Exchange server. And lo and behold, they could do it in their sleep. And when there was an outage, they could do it in their sleep in the middle of the night. And that is the capabilities that we need to develop on our teams. And so first, understand what are those capabilities. And NIST has a framework that you can leverage. And I'm sure Dan has something even better. And then understand those capabilities and measure the effectiveness of those capabilities, and understand that the efficacy of controls degrades over time. It's one of the underlying principles in cybersecurity. And how do you validate with frequency and efficacy the controls are working? How do you develop the capabilities? And then on top of that, it's logistics. How are you managing the efficacy of controls, the management of your capabilities, and you're consistently creating a machine that's testing it all out on a frequent basis, so that your practice, your tests are actually harder than the actual event. One last story, and then I'll hand it back to you, is the UCLA basketball Bruins won 11 championships under John Wooden. And what they did was their practices were harder than their actual games, right? They trained harder in practice than the actual game. If you get your team training harder during your own training, your own recovery exercises, your own red teaming, purple teaming, whatever you want to call it, then when the actual event strikes, you will have a team that is primed to respond effectively. Back to you, Val.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think we must have that training, the muscle memory to do something, exercise and execute something autonomically, than just, being asked to do it and then, trying to collect and remember. So, no, great emphasis on that. As I go back to you, Don, in terms of, training, I think we probably would be fair to do 2 separate training talk, right? One is those that are already in workforce, especially in cyber workforce, and those that want to get in and build that cyber pipeline. What is your thought about fixing the pipeline of cybersecurity? Because there is always this talk about not just having enough talent. I think that when we have to be very specific, what is not there and how do we can get to there, right? I hate to be, I don't believe that there is no talent. I think there's talent. We just have to, address it and coach it and get it ready for our industry, which is a very new industry relatively, right?
100%. And I think that's one of the most important challenges that we have, right? I mean, the cyber workforce market has to grow by 65%. We have, pandemic, 300% growth in cybercrime. We have 3.6 million people that are needed as cyber analysts globally. And so what do we do to bring people not in the industry into the industry? How do we bring people that are career changers to the cyber industry and not to some other industry? And how do we make sure that we have equity and access to enable people from different socioeconomic levels to get high quality training? And that's actually what we in Thrive DX concentrate on. We concentrate on training people with no skills completely, people who want a career change, bring them into the industry. And we do that by first and foremost giving them an intro course, right? So they have no idea about cyber. They even think, I can't be that hacker that, because there's a different conception. What is cybersecurity for people who don't know? So we bring them in, we let them have a 30-hour intro course where we teach theory, where we also have a lab environment that simulate real life instances, right? Like a website with a vulnerability, you have to find it, you have to find a flag. So we show them what the cyber market is, and we give them the confidence that actually they can do this. We also, back to Nick's first point, enable them to see if they have a passion for it. Because as Nick said, if you don't have passion for something, you won't do it well. So here they see if they have the passion for it. We also see if they have the attitude and aptitude, the motivation to go through and learn, to sit and train for 400 hours instructor-led and 400 hours at home. And then we also train them in lifelong learning, because it's you come out of the course in this level, but you might want to go and go and go, right? And you can. In the cyber market, you can go however far you want, because the demand is so high. The need is so high. The opportunity is so high. So to go back, they start with that intro course and they see if they like it. They see if they can hack it. And they also understand what's expected from them from the whole course. And only then do they, after they pass a certain test, do they get accepted to the next course, to the extended course. And they continue for another at least 370 hours, where it's broken down to 14 different courses, and they get different aspects of cybersecurity. They get both theory and practical skill-based learning. So they get that virtual labs and challenges environment. The labs is really a practice arena, and the challenges really challenge them to see how advanced can they get and how to do research and so forth. And then when they finalize, and they get an exam every time, and when they finish the course, they can start as a junior level cyber analyst, or they can make a specialization. Mm-hmm. Further, to those that are already in the field and have to keep learning, we have assessment tools that come and assess your knowledge and your skill set and bring you new things, right? Because cyber is all the time changing. For example, our instructors, all people working in the field, and they come and instruct in order for them to keep learning, because the only way to keep learning is actually also to teach and to give to see what's new out there. And all these assessment tools and further show them what they're lacking, and then we give them special labs and special experiential learning type practical learning to that highlight what they were missing and train them on the things that they're missing.
Absolutely. No, I think it is extremely intense, and I think that reinforcing the learning cycles are extremely important. But the starting, is basically where you lose most people, because they may not be able to sustain those 30 hours followed by 300 hours. And I think that's where we got to do a better job and bring to more people the structured learning experience that you just described. I
so much agree with you, because besides bringing the people, because we have over 50% from diverse communities earning less than $30,000. That's our demographics. And then most of them actually pass and want to continue, but not all of them can actually fund their studies, right? So we have to find more financing ways and which allows equity and inclusion to enable people from diverse communities to come and train and get placed in these jobs. And that really, when we find that solution, we make it very, very accessible to everybody, we will be able to make a big change in that cyber talent shortage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, Nick also started out this discussion with this proceeds of the book and the great contribution that you're making already starting into your next chapter. Nick, you want to talk a little bit more about that? How can we bring more resources to people who really don't have it?
Yeah, thanks, Val. And I thought about this is that, and we went into lockdown and I started to write this book, I thought, I don't want anything, I don't want to make a penny on this. I want to be able to do something and pay it forward. I was once a poor kid looking for an opportunity. And if I can help someone get a start in their career, that would be something that would be meaningful to me. And so Next Gen Cyber Talent here based in the Bay Area helps underprivileged, underserved communities develop skills that can help them get jobs. And so it hopefully helps our community, but it also helps individuals that to help develop a career. It's something that I care about. And so I think, again, one of the things that's so interesting and fun about cybersecurity is that generally you have people who want to tackle challenging problems and who want to do something good. I used to think I was helping protect our American way of life by protecting a bank. I now think cybersecurity impacts our way of life. And how do we help protect our way of life as we're so reliant on technology? And so, yeah, when you can is help someone out, build out a career. And then if people have the incentive, if they have that fire in their belly to educate themselves, hopefully more people are now aware of Dan's platform. It sounds fascinating, exactly what the industry needs. Because I think some of the numbers I've heard, and I think Dan called out 3.5 million unfilled cybersecurity jobs. Cisco had a recent report that said something similar. It's a problem, and we have to incentivize people and help them understand that this is meaningful, purposeful work and exciting and can be challenging. And by the way, you learn through failure. And as long as it's not seismic failure, then you can grow from it, right? And so I talk with people about, I talk about my personal failures in my career earlier, what I learned from it, the scar tissue that it developed, and how hopefully you can learn from my failures and I can learn from yours, right? And so I think the fundamental management of adversity is an aspect in cybersecurity, and you have to enjoy that process and enjoy tackling new challenges, because sometimes you will face something you have never seen before, right? And that's where you need to be adaptable. 10 years ago, 10 plus years ago, when I first started dealing with crypto lockers and ransomwares, you just hadn't seen it. The whole Bitcoin market was, the crypto market was so nascent, and you had to evolve your thinking quickly in order to inoculate yourself against it, and sharing those experiences with the community that you're in so that others can learn from it and deal with it. I think those are the sort of things that are interesting and meaningful. And so I've certainly benefited from it. And I think that we all feel good about the industry that we're a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. I think, we are in such a great industry, and the mission is so purposeful. It makes the life worth living. And I believe we get any single person who's not in this, not in this, bring them in. We provide them a durable career opportunity that they can have a lifelong, long-term career, which is not going anywhere, right? I think it's only growing. And one person from those underprivileged areas and underrepresented communities that you bring in, it just doesn't change the life of one person, but their entire family, maybe a community and they see heroes that the others can become those. So I'm so much in agreement with you, gentlemen. I think this is probably the most fascinating conversation I've ever had around this, because last couple of I had a personal turning point I'd probably share with you, because it's probably relevant to both of you. Last 6 months, I've been working with the Afghan refugee resettlement, and also now with the Ukrainian refugee resettlement. And this has just opened up a completely new, different dimension and world for us. And we really went into it. And one thing that we realized, and Dan, that goes back to your point, that you might have all the great resources and training and everything. If you don't have the access to it, it's going to become, it's not doing its job, right? The potential that it has with the great hearts that Nick, you mentioned, and Dan, you are doing the job as an entrepreneur. I think it's how can we make this more real for people who we need to bring into this industry, but also give them an opportunity to have this socioeconomic development. So just as we wrap up this Cyber Talent Week, we're going to go to 5 different refugee resettlement agencies supported by them, and we are bringing in a tech help desk, a mobile tech help desk, and we are looking for donors, space donors, where we can put this laptop so that they can have access to the great training that Dan you provide and the books that you have written, Nick. I think it's something that we could work forward to. But I'm really thrilled to be in this conversation and look at the great hearts that we have here. I mean, this is not just business. This is, as Nick you mentioned, saving the American way of life not only, but also extending it to others who don't have the access to it. So excellent. With that, I think we probably need to address this digital transformation gap, as most of the organizations that we see are moving digital, and especially in this pandemic, when a lot of folks also didn't have access to education because they didn't have a device, or they were moved to remote learning. It has also opened up opportunities for others to actually learn because they can afford to go online classes, right? So Dan, how do you address this digital transformation? How do we close this gap? And specifically, how do we reach the underserved communities now that we have a tool to, right, with the online mechanisms?
Yeah, I think in one word, I think collaboration, right? What you're doing, Val, what you just said, in looking for collaboration, many parties involved. For example, we have a few projects down in Miami. One project is with the homeless, from homeless to high tech. Miami is now high tech and so forth. And because we're online and because we can bring computers to the homeless institute shelter, and we can give them access, and then we have a few great enterprises supporting us, including ThriveDX, supporting the training. We're able to take people from homelessness to high tech. We're also working with the home for special women, where we bring the same computers and bring them back the confidence they need to come back into society by training them, by giving them, by also showing them that they can do this. Because in cybersecurity, there's jobs for everybody. Really, there's jobs for everyone. And we've opened up a platform that enables government, enables enterprise to help support and reskill and upskill people from diverse communities, but through really a sustainable program that can go for 50 to 100 years on having revolving financing. But this all will be able to be done through collaboration and through really making and improving equity and access, and enabling different people to come in. The idea that you can learn remote is helpful because then it can reach people in different regions, and they don't have to come to the school to learn and to take the training, but they still need aid in financing. There's the vet financing, for example. The vets are really people are already protecting America. Let them have access, let them have financing to train cybersecurity and to keep training America. They're already doing this. There's so many pockets of people that would really help protect and train America. They just need the start. And I think that's what we need to work on. We need to work on better collaboration with all the stakeholders involved, from government to enterprise to training organizations. ThriveDX is not the answer. 100 ThriveDX might be the answer. People working together, government, enterprise, to solve this problem, to understand that this is, as Nick said, this is the biggest threat the economy is facing. The biggest threat, U.S. businesses, our electricity, our energy, our government, everything is online. Everything is prone for cybercrime. And we all need to just come together and have actionable points that enable millions of people be trained and come into the cyber market.
Absolutely. So I mean, the way Dan you just mentioned it, it seems like it's probably fitting to call this a cybersecurity capacity gap, like crisis, that you deal with, that we deal with other crises, and similarly we come back and deal with this very proactive, actively now. No, I can't say proactively because we are already behind the eight ball, right? We got to get more people in, keep them in cyber, and also grow them in cyber, right?
100%.
Yeah. So Nick, coming back to you on this topic specifically with providing access to those people who don't have access to an education, forget about cyber, right? What are your thoughts on breaking ground in that area? You already are connected to one or more nonprofits who are tied to this. How can we collaborate? I think Dan's probably brought up the topic of collaboration, which I want to drill in a little bit farther.
Yeah, I think to Dan's point is collaboration. He's doing his part with his platform, but so much more is needed. I'll use an example earlier in my career when I was on the pen testing side. Sort of the attacker perspective is the path of least resistance. How can we reduce the friction for people to have a path of least resistance into cyber education? Right. And if we think about leading with empathy, how would you extend a platform where it's easier and more clear about what the outcomes are going to be should you choose this career path? And to some of the points that you brought up, Val and Dan, is that it can improve your life, it can improve the lives of your family. There's a lot of opportunity here. And so I think a part of it is probably marketing and storytelling, is being out there, sharing with people that are interested in the community about this is a great place to have a career. Here are some educational platforms. There are various programs that you can subscribe to and sort of stir a curiosity on how to develop a career in cybersecurity are some of the ideas that come to mind. For the last 15 years, I've been part of a small charity, and our goal is to deliver better outcomes for underprivileged children. So we'll build computer labs and we'll build playgrounds, it's on a very minor level here locally. But if you have the right sort of mindset and the empathy, and you care about this, participating in events just like this one, sharing ideas. Now I know about Dan's platform, I'm going to be pointing people to it. I think all of this is an amplifier, hopefully, and a call to action for our industry that more is needed. Those of us who have been on the digital battlefield for many years know that we need reinforcements. How can we develop those supply chains and build those on-ramps to get more people interested and educated in the space?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, taking it a step forward, Nick, with what you just mentioned, getting people in, is how can we find tools that we haven't really used so far? I think Dan also mentioned about the financial resources that need to bring in. There are actually some, and I think I'm surprised how little known it is within the industry. For example, Dan, if you were to teach or provide your access to your platform to the cyber apprenticeship program that CFF is connected with US Department of Labor, there is $550 available for per apprentice, but some employer has to write up kind of and run an apprenticeship program, which is basically a commitment to call them apprenticeship for their organization, right? So there has to be a mentor and then an employer relationship. Then that can only pay for the training, but for the veterans, there is a program with Georgia Cyber Center that we work very closely with that can pay for the wages. So if you're a veteran's family, it just doesn't have to be the veteran themselves, but their family, they'll pay for the wages for a year. So I think there are many resources available, and these resources need to come together. Maybe the way the U.S. government, not just the U.S. government, but the governments around the world who are trying to address this cyber capacity need for their own countries, but collectively as an industry we can address, is bring the platform from Dan's standpoint, right? Nick, your standpoint, bring in the demand and the learning pathways and the different functions that need this in a structured way. And from what we have been doing from CFF and our commercial measures is bringing those resources under one platform, right? I think that collective platform approach is required to address this holistically, and collaboration is key. Absolutely, there is no doubt about it, right? Well, I think I know this is just something that we could just jump on today and get going and doing. But I think there are a couple of other points I wanted to kind of touch upon. One of them is definitely kind of the starting points of skill areas. Danny mentioned you already have something that gives you the starting point for those that have absolutely no cybersecurity experience or even tech experience. It would be good to know that. If you wanted to, share some of that, it would be great.
I didn't get the question.
Yeah, what would be the starting point, the skills starting point? I think will be good to know, because I think those that are dialing in, I want them to realize that you really don't need to be in cyber to be, getting started on cyber.
The starting point is zero. The starting point, you don't have to have any computer.
I want everyone to hear that.
No computer skills. I mean, you have to like the computer a little bit because you're working with them.
Yeah.
But no computer skills, nothing. We teach everything that's needed. We start from ground zero. And that's and we concentrate on that. That's one really of our highlights, that we start from ground zero. No computer skills. Doesn't matter if you're a nurse, an accountant, a driver, an Uber, whatever it is, a housewife, no skills, nothing. You just have to have motivation. You just really have to sit down and study and learn and get that confidence. And that's why these intro courses are so good and important, because they let you in very easily. You just need to decide that you want a career change into a very lucrative, sustainable, in-demand career. Can you say no to that? That's all you need to have. That's all you need to have, is a desire to have, as you said, a generational impact on your family, a desire to get a job in a market that's never going away, that's the most in demand, and the growth is just depending on how much you wanna put in, how much you wanna study and learn. And after our program, where you also learn how to learn, right? We have a special module that teaches you how to learn, teaches you about continuing learning, about lifelong learning. And the more you learn, the higher of a place in the job, and the more impact you can make, because there's so much impact that one can make in this market. And it's all open. It's all open. Right now, 600,000 job openings in cybersecurity in the United States alone. 600,000, and it's not going down. It just doesn't go down. It just goes up. So the need is there. The problem is there. The challenge is there. All you need to do is learn. All you need to do is sit down and learn. No skills necessary to come in to these programs. We train and we teach you everything you need to know. And that's why, it's such a market that, with more partnerships, more collaborations, people from different communities, from unrepresented communities can come. Partnerships with women communities, people of color, disabled, everybody can come into this market, train, and get a great job.
Yeah. Oh, that's I can see it happen now with both of you. I think contributing in different ways. I think the content and the intent to provide, right, and Nick, from you to the intent to give time and coach and provide pathways for learning for people. I think this is happening and it's real. So that this is great. I'm just waiting for the day when we'll come back very quickly, hopefully, that we can show those success stories. I'm happy to do that through CFF. So Dan, bring along whatever you want to showcase. I would love to do that because that's such a motivating story.
Well, if I can actually give you one story, there was this nurse. Her name was Elizabeth. She was going to be fired after 18 years in the hospital. Fired. That's it. She took our intro course. She liked it. Her friend signed off on the loan for her. She went through 10 months of very rigorous training. And a week after she graduated, the cyber department of the same hospital gave her a job. She got her tenure back. she was so appreciative. You know, she had a life for the next 30 years. She had another job. And Elizabeth's story is the same as Ethan's and John and Jose and everyone that goes into our course. They come in, they train, and they get a great job, and they're so appreciative because this is really an opening to a change in life. They do something that's fulfilling, that's needed, and with very lucrative and sustainable and very in demand, and they rise up very, very quickly. And that's a story of almost every single one of our students.
Excellent, excellent. So, all right, gentlemen, we got about 5 more minutes to wrap this up. It's already at its high point, I believe. So maybe Nick, just maybe a quick wrap up of points as you know we open this up with you know this collective body of knowledge and problem solving and all the opportunities and resources that we're putting together. Hopefully, they activate a very strong cybersecurity national cybersecurity strategy. What are your few highlights that you want to include that you want the leaders to take away from here?
I think, it's great to hear Dan's story about people improving their station in life, right? What a great story that a nurse took 10 months, ramped up her skill set, and has a profession that can now provide for herself and her family in the future. And there's many of these stories. And the takeaway is that whether it's motivation or determination or curiosity, all of these can be harnessed to both improve your own station in life, but improve the ecosystem that we are all right? I frequently, in fact, I ran a technology a seminar one day, and the theme was know thyself, and it was on a 2,000-year-old principle: know thyself and know thy enemy, and you will win 100 battles. But the principle here that we can take away is what's not good for the hive cannot be good for the bee. We have to think about ecosystems, and we're part of it. And how do we improve our ecosystem? Through education, through learning, through drilling and testing, through developing capabilities. How do we attract people into our industry and help visualize what a career can look like? There's a lot of exciting things. There's a lot of challenging things. And how do we help people develop critical thinking skills that themselves will come and add to our industry, right? I think that chemistry that develops when you have lots of different perspectives, lots of different backgrounds coming into a team or a company or an industry, it helps it grow. And so it's an exciting time. Cybersecurity has never been more important. We talked about how it impacts our very way of life. It'll only be more important and more impactful in the future. And so I'm grateful for all the work that you've done, Val, with this event and attracting talent and attracting awareness. And there's so much more to be done. And so it's energizing and invigorating to be part of these conversations. I've learned from both you and Dan today. Hopefully attendees can take away and feel energized and passionate about developing their own skills and their profession. And so thanks for letting me to participate. You're on mute, Val.
Val, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Val.
That had to happen, right? That had to happen. No, you just missed the best things I said. But humbly, I would, submit myself that this has been a very, very motivating and exhilarating conversation. We'll go on to do good things, and outcomes will come out of it. So great. So Dan, last words from you. Already very inspiring session indeed. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And thank you, Nick. I have learned a lot, and it's great to be here. If I should really emphasize one more time, is really there's a huge potential to create a meaningful social impact. And there's a huge potential to come and collaborate and grow to protect the life that we have, to protect America, to protect the world, but really to protect the life that we have. And automation is making jobs disappear. There's going to be 87 million jobs disappear because of automation. And at the same time, it's going to be 150 million new jobs in the digital industry created in the next 5 years. And this growing digital skill gap is creating an opportunity for people of unrepresented communities, for people from different socioeconomic levels, come train and get these very, very in demand, very lucrative, very sustainable, very long-term, very jobs that really make generational impact. And so, I can emphasize again for all of us to come and collaborate, seize the day, seize the opportunity, make social impact, and protect the world and create social impact at the same time. And we have a great passion for it. I have to say that it's not just my passion. Really, everyone in Thrive DX has this passion to change people's lives, to transform people's lives. And they care about the student's journey and really about the student outcomes. And it's a great opportunity that we all have. And I hope that we can find, people to collaborate more and more to really solve this huge cyber talent shortage. And really, Val, thank you for the work. And Nick, thank you for your kind words. And thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. Thank you both, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. And I'm more thrilled than I was, coming into the session. I think we can do such great things together. And collaboration is the key. And thank you for giving me the time and the opportunity to bring all this together. So thank you. With that, we come to a conclusion of this particular session.